Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Thursday Night Live. Here with me today is Jacob. Would you like to say hello, Jacob?
Hello, everyone. Hope you've all had good, less stressful week, put it that way. I know January is a month where you're getting back into the swing of things, but yeah, look forward to tonight talking all things we love, Sunderland AFC.
And Jack, how's it going down there?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Looking forward to a weekend of football. And yeah, pleased to talk about Sunderland, as Jacob touched on. Plenty to talk about, as always. And yeah, looking forward to the show.
And I'd like to introduce our special guest, Mr. James Copley. Nothing like last minute, James. You couldn't have a chat just before you come on, but would you like to introduce yourself?
My name's James Copley. I work for the Sunderland Echo as a football writer, so I cover Sunderland on a day-to-day basis, which means I don't get a lot of sleep, but is very fun nonetheless. But yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Excellent. And as usual, it's a live show, so feel free to join in the chat and we will come to you as much as we can. We've already got David Jopling, Colin Major, Mickey Mack in there, Conrad Lee, Emma, Hugo, Conrad Tank, Colin Major, Anthony, all saying hi, good evening, and all right, lads, and all the rest of it. Right, so we'll mix up our format a bit because we've got limited time with James, so we'd like to pick your brain as much as possible. So I guess the big one, what everyone's going to be asking is about transfers. So transfers in, there's been loads of rumours, all sorts of random players, but the main four that's cropping up every time is obviously Ahmad, which I think has been poo-pooed now, Kiefer Moore, Villa, and Langstaff. Is there anything you can tell us on these, James? What's your opinions on them? What's happening with them?
So we'll start with Ahmad. I think it's been pretty widely reported that that deal probably isn't going to happen as things stand. It looks like Manchester United are quite keen to keep Ahmad at Old Trafford. They've got a young right winger at Man United who's going to go out on loan. So Eric Ten Hag's probably going to play him, going to have a look at him. Obviously, he came on against Nottingham Forest a couple of weeks ago. He's since been out of Manchester United squad, but that's due to an illness. Michael Beale said that Sunderland should be in pole position if Manchester United do want to loan Ahmad out, but it looks pretty unlikely at this stage. The Jan Mvia one is really, really interesting. He's obviously a free agent. He's quoted as saying that money wouldn't be an issue and that he would like to come back to Sunderland at some point. Obviously, that fuels social media fire. And everybody wants Jan Mvia to come back to Sunderland, and I'm among them. I absolutely loved him during his first stint. There's a couple of things with this, though. I'm not entirely sure. It seems like Sunderland do have an interest in why wouldn't you? Because Jan Mvia is a quality player, and he could probably come in and affect games in the Championship. He is 33. But that's the same age as Corey Evans. He hasn't played for 6 months, but former French international, former Champions League player. So you'd think he should be okay at the Championship, but it would present a little bit of a risk. My only thing with the Jan Mvia transfer is that he has been a free agent for 6 months now. So there was reportedly talks in the summer. Why wasn't it done then? He could have been brought in at any time. He could be brought in at any time after the transfer window as well. So if it isn't about money, then why hasn't he signed for Sunderland yet? And if he wants to come, why hasn't it happened yet? So we could end up with another sort of Jermaine Defoe saga. We don't know. It's certainly one to watch. I'm interested to see how that one plays out. Kiefer Moore is probably one I know less about. I think Bournemouth would prefer Kiefer Moore to leave on a permanent deal. It looks like Ipswich and Sunderland and a couple of other clubs would like a loan move. Obviously, Bournemouth would like Kiefer Moore off their books so they can concentrate that money elsewhere. But do the likes of Sunderland want to pay a fee for I think off the top of my head, Kiefer Moore's 30, 31. As good as he is, he's probably going to want a long-term contract on decent money. Does that suit Sunderland? Are they willing to do that? History would suggest to us probably not at the moment. The flip side of that is that Sunderland need a proven, experienced striker. And actually, this ownership group is in a little bit of trouble in terms of the way fans perceive them at the moment with the Newcastle debacle, with some of the things that have gone on, the sacking of Tony Mowbray. I think everybody would accept there's been some bright young players signed at Sunderland, and Dennis Serkin, Trey Hume, all of those sorts of players. But at some point, you do need to invest and get some experience in as well. So that is a really interesting transfer sort of, decision that Sunderland will have to make. But there's going to be interest in Kiefer Moore's services from a lot of teams in the Championship, because a lot of teams in the Championship need a striker, and there's not that many of them, which I think is something Sunderland's learned. The final one, Langstaff, it's my understanding that there is interest from Sunderland. Notts County are going to want a large fee, potentially 1.5 million, maybe even a little bit more. He signed a long-term deal last season. He's scored hatfuls of goals. He's currently top of League Two, scoring shots on 20. I think he got like 40 and 46 last season or something ridiculous when they got promoted. So there's interest from clubs up and down the EFL. It's going to take a big bid to dislodge him in January, but there is interest there. The problem also Sunderland have is that everybody in the mother knows that they need and would like a striker. So obviously, to get a striker is tough anyway. To get a striker when everybody knows that you need a striker is pretty tough, and to get a striker in January is tough. Well, because obviously you pay a premium in January, and that's sadly the way it works. So I think there's lots of things behind the scenes, but Sunderland do face a couple of notable challenges if they want to get business done.
Yeah, excellent. That's a great summary of them four. Jacob, you wanted to be in there. Was it the Amvilla one that piqued your interest?
Obviously, that is a big interest right now. I'm 50-50 whether that one, if there's any clarity in it, though. But I was going to ask James, is there any clarification potential? I've heard that KLD is potentially meeting a supporters group tonight. If there's any truth in that?
Yeah, that was happening tonight. The Red and White Army group, which is a free and democratic supporters group that anybody can join. I would encourage supporters to do that if they want to have a say. From what I gather, they ask their members, they ask their sort of liaison officers. They pull together a list of questions, and KLD has met with them today. There are certain conditions to these meetings happening. It's my understanding it has to be a structured dialogue type of meeting. The minutes have to be signed off on. So there's all that at play as well. So we might not hear anything about it for a couple of days, maybe even going on a week, while the minutes of those meetings are sort of hashed out. That, unfortunately, is just sort of the way these sort of business meetings go when they come to the public domain. I've seen Red and White Army get a little bit of stick for that, but if they didn't do that, I'm not sure these meetings would happen. So yeah, all eyes on that, Jacob, because there's been some things happened at this football club in the past couple of months that certainly need addressing. Lots of questions that need asking and answering, and it's great that Red and White Army have these opportunities to put the questions directly to the ownership.
Jack, anything from you on the potential incomings?
Yeah, I mean, I think Diallo's just a pipe dream for all the Sunderland fans, isn't it? We all loved him, and we're quite a, do I say, sentimental fan base. We get attached to footballers quite quickly and quite easily, don't we? Because we love the club so much. So I think it was one of those. Diallo was there last year. He did fantastically. But I think realistically, as James has touched on it, I don't think it was ever likely to be done. And V is an interesting one because a player of his calibre would certainly suit us. My only slight worry is how long would it take him to get fit and get up to standards? I think, he probably kept himself physically fit, but match fit's a different thing. Can he cope with 90 minutes? I mean, no doubt about it, talent-wise and stature-wise, he's absolutely more than capable of playing in the Championship. But would it take him 5 or 10 games to really get up to speed with things? And then we're nearly going to be towards sort of March time. So, I mean, hey, we've got nothing. So if it's sort of Mvia or nothing, you go with Mvia, don't we? Because I think the defensive midfield position is as important as a striker is, in my opinion, because the way that we keep getting played through sometimes, and teams are finding it far too easily to create chances against Sunderland. So I think we're missing Corey Evans badly. So it is a position that we need, and I think it's as important as a striker, if not more important. Langstaff, I don't know that much about him, so I'll sort of reserve my judgment. The numbers that James said he got in League Two, excellent, but it's a bit of a big step up, wasn't it, from League Two? So I'm not too sure on that. But the main one that attracts me is Kiefer Moore. I think he would be really good for us, really good signing. He would suit us. But there's going to be a lot of interest in a player like him, so we'll have to wait and see. Would it be a loan deal? Would he want to stay in the south of England rather than come up here for a short spell? I don't know, but he would be someone I would be, fighting tooth and nail to get. But you'll have to wait and see.
I think it's
interesting.
It's interesting you say about Jan and Veer and the Sunderland fans clamouring for a player. You know, he had a season on loan with us. He joined 9 years ago. He played 37 times, scored 1 goal, and we're all absolutely over the moon that he's potentially coming back. So I think, yeah, Sunderland fans are definitely a sentimental bunch.
Yeah, we all know what the track record is with returning players as well, though, sometimes. So that's the only worrying thing. It's better to think of them fondly. Funnily enough, Langstaff, if you want to know a touch more about him, on the This Is Wrexham documentary, they go into quite a bit of detail when they're up against Notts County. So, yeah, that's something you could pick up and see a bit about him on there. You see his goals. So, yeah. Transfers out now. I mean, this is the bigger worry for me at the moment. So the rumours were Clark, obviously. Clark's always been on the cards as a rumour to go out with big money involved. Dan Neil, several big clubs looking at Dan Neil. Patterson, which is a big worry. I don't think Patterson, or I don't think many of them three would be in January. I think we have to worry in the summer. And then there's Pritchard as well, which is more recent, which has come up, which looks like a legitimate bid. So what's your thoughts on them, James?
Oh, has he crashed at the vital moment?
Is he froze? What's your thoughts on them, Jacob?
Pritchard's obviously a worry, but I think in knowing what this board will, they'll look at the situation, you know, a few months left on his contract. If a decent offer came in, I don't see them not turning it down. Basically, I just feel that they'll want the cashola for him. I just think he is a very, very intelligent player for the Championship. But I know there's been reports he's been linked with a move abroad. But wherever he'll go, you know, he'll make a significant impact because he's just an all-round, natural, decent, gifted footballer in general, Pritch. And yeah, it's going to be, I mean, people are talking about us losing Patterson, Neil, Clark, but yeah, if Pritchard goes, it's going to be a big struggle because that creativity we have in the final third will be lacking even more if he's off. And yeah, Pritchard, I think he's been vastly underrated in the time he's been with us, considering we got him on a free back in League One. You know, he has been one of the standout buys this football club has made for basically nothing over the past couple of years. And yeah, what a huge impact he's made on that dressing room. What big impact.
James, we'll go to you. I don't know if you heard, but I was talking about the transfers out and what you think of.
Yeah, I just lost you.
Yeah, what's your thoughts on that?
So the ones, 2 seconds. So the ones you mentioned just before my internet cut out. So Daniel, Patterson and Clark, I wouldn't be too worried about. I think it's obvious that there's interest in the 3 players from Premier League clubs because they are 3 very good players. I think Sunderland are in a good position with each in terms of contract length. Patterson, Neil and Clark are under contract for a little while yet. I think Clark's got another 2.5 years. Patterson 3 or 4 off the top of my head. Dan Neil is similar. So there's going to be interest, but I don't think they go anywhere in January, to be honest. I think it's a real hard sell to let any of those players go just in terms of Sunderland's season. And if you're Neil or Patterson, you're playing every game. So why leave in January? You could maybe look at it again at the summer. But Sunderland have done good work in terms of contracts and they are protected. Clark's an interesting one because there is potential big money that's going to come in. I don't think he leaves in January. That's my gut feeling. And it's my understanding that he's probably going to stay. However, that has to be caveated with if a big Premier League bid does come in, which is stupid and is hard to turn down. I'm talking, 20, 25 million, something in the region of that. It might possibly be hard for Sunderland to turn down, but that's sort of speculating a little bit. So my gut feeling is that Clark will stay as well. It's worth noting that, Tottenham will be due a percentage of any fee Sunderland make on Clark. So there's all that to consider as well. Clark's not pushing for a move. He's happy at Sunderland for the time being. The contract has stalled, unfortunately, for the moment. But I think that was always inevitable once the Premier League clubs get involved because Clark now knows how much he can earn. And Sunderland simply can't offer that because they're a Championship club. Now, whether you think Kira Louis-Dreyfus should be playing Jack Clark a Premier League wage in terms of showing ambition, I guess is another matter. But Sunderland, in terms of sustainability and the way they're at the moment, they're just not going to be able to match what Burnley or West Ham could match in the Premier League. And perhaps it would be foolish for Sunderland to start chucking wages around like that. Alex Pritchard, I think, is a really interesting one. I don't think it's any secret that Sunderland would have let Alex Pritchard go in the summer if a bid had come in. It was a similar situation to Danny Bart. He ended up staying. Tony Mowbray was delighted. Sunderland fans were delighted. He's been in and out the team, but when he's broken into the team, particularly in recent weeks, he's looked like Sunderland's best creative outlet. I agreed with what Jacob was saying there. I don't see why you would let Alex Pritchard go in January with the squad in its current state, with the form as it is. He's a quality operator. People forget about Alex Pritchard as well, is that he's Sunderland's most experienced player, really, in terms of Premier League games. He was once bought for, I think it was 12, 13 million quid. He is a quality player. Now, he's only got 6 months left on his contract. So, are Sunderland going to offer him another one? I don't know. So he's going to be able to talk to clubs pretty soon. There's going to be clubs sniffing around him because they know that they could either get him on the cheap or on a free in the summer. So that's the situation of Sunderland's own design, really. Obviously, Alex Pritchard's banging form, playing well. I think personally that it would be daft to let him go, but could I see it happening given his contracts are about and potentially leaving? And I think that answer certainly wouldn't be popular with me, because I think we're going to need Alex Pritchard, and you do need experience in your squad. So yeah, I think while there's not been a lot happening in the transfer market just in general, reasonably busy couple of closing few days, maybe go down to deadline day quite quiet, but you get the feeling that once one door falls, that things could start happening. But as I said earlier, it's clear what Sunderland need, so they have to go and get it, and it's the pressure's on, really.
Yeah, definitely. Be interesting what they do under that pressure. Before we go to you, Jack, we'll go to a few of the comments. I'm just going to pick out some. So I've got to highlight that the Nesbitt Bros are in the house with Jim. They're regulars of ours. John Swinney, good evening. He's from New Zealand, so hello. That's great to see people overseas as well joining in. Stephen Winship, and Villa to me is a no, as it would take too long to get him fit, which I believe is what Jack's mentioned. John Nesbitt, 1.5 million is peanuts today. Let's cut to the chase here. If the owners don't get a striker in, they are in serious trouble, and the fans have had it now. John Swinney, why wouldn't we move 09 into defensive mid and play Celt? Bristolian Mackham says Langstaff makes more sense, less risk. Conrad Tank says Langstaff is 26 and only played in the lower leagues. Too much of a gamble. That's interesting. We've got contrasting views on Langstaff there. So that's a 50-50 one on there. Last one to pick out is Mick Coleman says, can't let Pritchard go. He's got the best beard in the whole squad. So obviously that's something you look for in a player. Jack, what do you think about this outgoing rumours going on?
Yeah, I can see Pritchard going personally. I think it would be a bad move from the club, because I think he's certainly got value to it, as has already been discussed by both James and Jacob. He's got that bit of quality in the final third, hasn't he? And the experience factor that he brings to proceedings. And he's one of the only players, in my opinion, in the final third that has that little bit of composure at times. We're a team that we have a lot of the ball and we play a lot in the opposition half, but we never really seem to be able to, a lot of the time, have that final cutting edge, play that killer ball, or, as it showed on Saturday, which we're going to come on to, we had chances, and we, particularly the Ashishi one that we missed and missed it. And I think that Pritchard has that, so I think he has huge value to the squad, but I just think the model that we are on as a club, I think they'll look at him and just think he's the wrong side of 25. Do you know what I mean? And his contract's going, so he's not getting another one. And if anybody comes in for him, then we'll let him go. If not, Pritchard might just run his contract down in the summer, which is stupid for me, because for me we should be bringing his door down to give him another 1 year deal. What's the harm? There's no harm in giving a player of his quality a 1 year deal, but I think I can see him going. And the other ones, I think I can see Clark going in the summer. I think if we get a decent offer in the summer for him, I think he will go. But I think at the minute he knows his own value. You know, he'll be on to his agent. His agent will be saying, look, keep playing well, and the clubs are going to be coming in for you. There's no rush. So I don't think he'll go in January. I hope he doesn't go in January because our season might fall apart. And the other ones, yeah, as James has touched on, you know, we've tied them down to deals. That doesn't necessarily mean that they won't go, but it's less likely when they've signed a big contract. It's very unlikely now. So I think that is part of the model, and our fans are not going to like this. But the way that we're going is to sell the players when they reach sort of the maximum value, and our fans won't like that one bit because they won't understand the value in building. And I can sort of understand that from their perspective, but it is going to be likely that if we've got good players playing well in the Championship, that, you know, the likelihood is there are going to be clubs coming in for them, and it's going to be a feature, you know, clubs sniffing around our players, unfortunately.
I think it's a good point, that, Jack, because like sometimes the time is now, isn't it? You look back to last season, you had Tony Mowbray in charge with Sunderland playing really good football, and at one point you had Jack Clark, Patrick Roberts, Ahmad, Ross Stewart, and Ellis Sims at the club. You know, I know we were hampered by injuries and recalls and stuff like that, but Sunderland might not have a better chance at promotion than they did with that squad for another 2 or 3 years. I mean, I'm speculating slightly, but I think everybody was very happy with this model while we were discovering gems like Jack Clark and Patrick Robertson, paying low fees and getting players in that wanted to play for Sunderland. And I'm still for that. I'm still for that way of doing things. But when it progresses and you move out of League One and you move up the Championship, there's an expectation that you're going to keep progressing. And I don't think that's an unfair or unreasonable expectation, given the history of Sunderland. This is Sunderland's longest ever stint outside of the Premier League. So obviously fans want to get back there. That's absolutely fair enough. I just feel like this model now is sort of moving into a phase that perhaps we weren't prepared for. And that's as you said, probably selling some of our better players and reinvesting. But do Sunderland fans have the patience for that? You know, perhaps not. And rightly so. We did spend four seasons in League One, and the 2 seasons before that weren't very fun either. So it's been a bloody long time since Sunderland have had much to shout about, really. So I can completely understand the sort of angst within the fan base. I think it is worth noting, though, that there has been some good work done by this recruitment team and by this model. We mentioned the players there. They're on long contracts. Sunderland aren't getting ripped off in the transfer market anymore. We're not overspending on players that don't want to be there. I think that those are good things. But, you know, what's gone on with the Black Cats bar, the commercial side of it, you know, the ticket office, all of that sort of stuff is playing on fans' minds, and it's creating a feeling, whether it's right or wrong, I don't know, that Sunderland are trying to do things tight and on the cheap. And until they put their hand in the pocket, I don't think that's going to go away. And until certain things are sorted out off the field, I don't think that's going to go away either.
Yeah, well, excellent. I think that's a consensus across the board from all of us. While we've got you still, James, for a short period, is there any transfers that we've not mentioned that you might have an insight into or an inkling into?
I don't think so, not at the moment. I think that the main ones are the ones we've spoken about. I think it is interesting, though, obviously we've mentioned earlier on the show that everybody's talking about a striker, and rightly so, because we need one. But that midfield really needs freshening up. I know we've been linked with Villa. Corey Evans is hopefully going to come back at some point, but how well is he going to come back? He's 33, coming back off a major injury. It might take him a little bit of time. Jay Matete is back in the squad now, but he's not really holding sitting number 6. He's more of an energetic sort of scuttler, sort of fleeing around, more in the mould of Ekwar, really. But talking of Ekwar and Neil, they need a rest. Sunderland needs some experience in the midfield. They need some variety. They need somebody that can bring some sort of tactical flexibility, someone who can play a slightly different role, who sort of wants to knit things together and wants to pass. And to be fair, could allow Daniel and Ekwar to grow in better players, because I really rate them highly at the moment, but I think they are sort of hamstrung with the defensive duties that they do have to do. If you think of Dan Neil's game, I know he's adding different facets to it, and that's good. But Dan Neil, to me, is the player that got forward against Accrington Stanley at the Stadium of Light and scored his first goal at the Stadium of, you know, in front of Sunderland fans. That's the player he wants to be and should be, and that's his strength. You know, Ekwar against Southampton, that's the player he wants to be. So I think we need somebody who can facilitate that, and it wouldn't surprise me if we end up with a couple in that position But no new names. I don't have any new names at the moment, but it wouldn't surprise me if a couple sort of crop up in the number 6 position in the next couple of days.
Excellent, cool. What are you like for time, James, at the moment?
Yeah, I've got another 5 minutes. My Wi-Fi's gone off, so I'm hotspotting. So until the Wi-Fi goes back on, I've got now to do. So I may as well sit and chill with you guys.
Right, okay, that's cool. That's cool with us. Well, you can chill with a review, a mini review. So we'll go to you first, Jacob. Ipswich, what is your thoughts? Let's have a brief. I'm not going to break it down to halves. Let's keep it as brief as we can. But what's your thoughts on the Ipswich game?
Well, going into it, my confidence was a bit low. You have to consider where they were before the game kicked off. You know, that they're second in the league. Well, I think they were third before the game kicked off because Southampton won in one of the 3 o'clock games. And, you know, they're up there for a reason. You know, they've got goals throughout the team. You know, if one attacking player has an off day, they've got someone else who can chip in, you know, the likes of Broadhead, Chaplin. And, yeah, you know, Kieran McKenna's got a real energetic and attacking power at Portman Road right now. And, you know, that they're going to be a flying force in the second half of the season going for automatic promotion. But I thought, you know, in the first 45 minutes, we gave a good account of ourselves considering how decent Ipswich have been at home this season. We knocked it about pretty well. You know, we done well when we had the ball. A little bit off it when we weren't in possession, but I thought our creativity when we had the ball in the final third, I thought we done really well. I thought Abdullah Bar, I thought that's one of his better games he's had for us. Got a great assist for Clark's finish. And you know what you get with Clark when he's got space on the edge of the box, you know, he will 9 times out of 10 hit the target. And it did, but did we really do enough to take the game to Ipswich in the second 45 minutes? I mean, for me, their equalising goal, it was an unfortunate one. I personally thought it was a handball in the process. But yeah, I think if that Ashish chance goes in, completely different game. But it's Beale's tactics that were questionable. You know, for me, taking our most creative outlet and key performer on the day off the pitch for Ashish was a puzzling one, to be honest with you. And that chance basically sums up what we're needing right now: more attacking firepower in the final third. If we had a more clinical presence up there, if that goal goes in 2-1, it would have been a completely different game. We might have picked Ipswich off because I thought they didn't have to do that much to get the 3 points on the night. And the second goal, you know, it's I've heard this on another Sunderland podcast. It's one of the most frustrating goals I've seen us concede this season. The fact that I was there that night, Connor Chaplin, when you see him from the stands, the geezer looks like you could fit him on your keyring. And the fact that he was allowed a free header in the box, just, Dan Ballard and Luke O'Nien were playing with such a low block when that free kick came in. But it was a shocking free kick from Ashish to give away. The ball was more or less going out of play. And yeah, so frustrating. And as soon as that went in, you know, coming back from a losing position, our record's been pretty dreadful this season. I knew it was game done from that point. To be honest, so disappointed, really disappointed.
Yeah, I think that's what Pritchard was having a go at Beale about when he came off, about the needless foul to give away. That's what it seemed to look like there. James, we'll come to you next as you press for time. Ipswich game.
I was disappointed. I didn't really feel like Sunderland had a great deal of control over the game at any point. I mean, the first half was okay, and I know they took the lead. It was a good assist by Barr, who's obviously had his critics, and rightly so for some of his performances. But I feel like Sunderland are just relying on a Jack Clark wonder goal these days. I really do. I mean, the Hull City away performance on Boxing Day, I thought personally Hull could have scored a couple. In fairness, Sunderland could have got a couple as well. Patrick Roberts should have perhaps done better. But I didn't see Sunderland scoring until Jack Clark produced that moment of magic. And I don't think Sunderland would have scored. And that's just how I sort of see Sunderland tactically at the moment is get the ball to Jack Clark. I didn't really understand the reasoning behind dropping Rusin after he'd talked him up. Obviously, he'd scored against Preston. He'd had a tough game in the derby, but I mean, didn't they all have a tough game in the derby? It was a tough assignment against the Premier League team. That didn't make much sense to me. And I really like Joe Bellingham. I think he's absolutely brilliant, but he's clearly knackered. He's so tired. And you're asking a lad who hasn't played up front in the EFL too much, apart from for Sunderland. He dabbled in the position when he was a bit younger, but you're seeing the balls at the fullback and they want to hit a striker down the channel, but Joe Bellingham's not making that run. He's not an experienced EFL striker yet, and he's a bit tired as well. He's more of an attacking midfielder or number 8. So, yeah, it's tough. I feel like there's Sunderland have some good players. I really rate Dan Ballard. I don't mind Luke O'Nien next to him. Obviously, Trey Hume. We've been a little bit unlucky with injuries with Huggins and Sergens, but I just feel like this squad and this team at the moment is lacking a little bit of stardust, like a mad like Ross Stewart. It's lost a little bit of quality, and it needs a little bit of experience to help drag it through games. And at the moment, we don't really have that. I also rate Kieran McKenna really highly. It's a very small sample size. We're judging Michael Beale off, but at the moment, I'm not. I'm yet to see him sort of have the effect on games that I would have liked to have seen him have. I thought McKenna, he brought on substitutes and he brought them on early, and they helped change the game for Ipswich. Now the flip side to that is, does Michael Beale have the squad to do what Kieran McKenna did against Sunderland? Possibly not at the moment. So you have to give him that as well. So, and I think we can be quite critical as a fan base, journalists, pundits, whatever. Sunderland is 7th as well, and I think that's the frustrating thing, is that we can see that there's a team there and we can see there's some good players there, but it's also glaringly obvious what's missing, and I think that's where the frustration comes. And these problems are long-term problems as well. I think there was a lot of understanding when this striker issue first came about. They're hard to get. You have to spend a lot of money on them. They don't grow on trees. Everybody else wants them, but it's now been 18 months, coming up to 2 years, and the position still is up for grabs, really. I'm hoping one of the lads will come good eventually, but unfortunately, the 4 that were brought in the summer, it hasn't worked for them yet. So again, that position needs addressing. So again, frustrated with Ipswich and frustrated that I can see I can see a decent team there that just needs a couple of crucial things adding to it. And it needs, sometimes in football, I think you need a bit of a refresh, you need a bit of a boost. All the old United lads talk about it, Roy Keane, Beckham and Gary Neville, that sometimes they'd have a transfer window where Veron would come in or Van Nistelrooy would come in, and it would give everybody a lift and it would up everybody's game. I feel like Sunderland needs something like that. Obviously, they're not going to get a Sebastian Veron or a Ruud Van Nistelrooy, but somebody to just come in and give everybody a boost who's, quality, who's got experience, somebody that can sort of, light the fire, as it were. But again, you have to caveat that with it's really hard to do in January, because it's a really, really hard window to operate in.
Yeah, definitely. Right, I've not forgot about you all in the comments. There's 174 here. If you can get us up to well over 100 likes with the people that's in here, that should be nice and easy. We'll come to you, Jack, and then I'll pick some comments out to read.
Yeah, well, I think we were all a bit sort of negative last week when we were going to Ipswich, weren't we? Ipswich are doing well this season. They're a real club with momentum, aren't they? That they've done well from coming up from League One. They've got a manager that knows the squad well, and they've been flying. I know they had a little bit of a wobble over the last couple of weeks, but let's be honest, in the last sort of year and a half, Ipswich have come on unbelievably, you know what I mean? To be sort of where they were, doing nothing in League One to suddenly now they're pushing to be in the Premier League in such a short space of time. And I thought that I agree with what James says in terms of the subs, but I agree. I think they always had another gear. They always had a different way to play. They always had another gear to find. And we looked like we had the goal and that's it, protect the goal. And I think that's partly the trouble. We're a bit one-dimensional. We've only got the one way to play. We don't have the second tactic. We don't have the subs off the bench to really come on and change the game. I didn't think there was that much in it, though. I really thought that over large chunks of the game, we actually matched Ipswich. But I agree with what Jacob said. Inevitably, when they went 2-1, there was never really any huge threat that we were going to get back into the game. And the annoying thing is the sloppiness of the 2 goals. Because if Ipswich carve you open and they score really two really good goals against you, you hold your hands up and you say, yeah, good team, playing well, top of the league, nearly top of the league. and there's nothing we could do. But there was things that Sunderland could have done to prevent both of those goals. You know, 2 Sunderland players both go for the same ball and neither of them get it. The lad runs through and scores. And then the second one, like, you know, it's been mentioned, he's going nowhere, and then Ashish fouls him stupidly, and then there's nobody marking the smallest lad on the pitch. You know, he's unmarked and has a free header in the net. So the 2 goals are really avoidable. We didn't make Ipswich work hard enough to win the game. But one little slight thing that I noticed, that popped up a stat on Sky Sports that Sunderland are the only team, I think, in the Football League not to drop a point from a winning position. Well, as soon as that stat come up at 1-0, I thought, you know exactly what's going to happen now. And you know exactly what's going to happen now.
So we're blaming Sky Sports.
Well, exactly. And sure as hell, what happened? Ipswich equalised and Ipswich went on to win the game. So, yeah, we're now just the same as everybody else. We're no longer the team that hasn't dropped a point from a winning position. But it's just typical Sunderland. As soon as I saw that, I thought, yeah, you know what's coming.
Typical, very typical. Right, we're going to have to say... Oh, you're muted there, James. I think you...
Sorry, I was tempted to tweet that before the game, Jack, but I thought I'm not tweeting it just because if it turns out that we get beat, I'll get absolutely hammered. So, yeah,
don't risk it.
Happen, wasn't it? Yeah, it was always going to happen.
Would I have to take a Twitter hiatus, wouldn't you, for a good week or so there, James?
Well, I need one of them already, I think, to be honest.
Jacob, is it a quick one? Because James
on a more
is
positive note, where we will give Sky Sports a bit of credit in terms of it being a good luck omen. I think bar the Ipswich home game in the opening game of the season, I think we haven't lost a game at home when it's been showing on Sky.
Don't say it. Why do you say it? Why would you do that?
You know what's going to happen now.
We all apologise for Jacob Kirkbride and his cursing of our team. Right, on that note, we'll have to say goodbye to our friend James Copley. If you've not already seen, James has got his own YouTube channel now at @JamesCopley_. So make sure you get over there, give him a subscribe and a follow. Would you like to say goodbye to everyone watching, James?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for having us. Obviously, we all have the Sunderland Echo content as well. Me, my colleagues, Phil Smith and Joe Nicholson cover the club on a daily basis. So if you ever want to interact or read any of that, it's always very much appreciated. And thanks for having us, lads. Really enjoyed it.
Cheers, James.
Cheers, lads.
Right, I'll go to comments before we move on from Ipswich. So we had one of the Rangers fans popped in there, Philip Clement. He said, Beale's a clown, all talk. That seems to be a trend on every live we've got recently. We've got a few Rangers fans joined the channel now. John Nesbitt, put Speakman up for sale and see how much we get. I think we'd have to pay them to take him. Colin Major, the only reason Pritchard has the best beard in the team is because half of them still too young to grow one. Conrad Tank hadn't oosh. Missed that sitter. Sunderland would have won, but the last 30 minutes was bad. John Nesbitt says Ipswich, not all that. They're there for the taking. For them, icing on the cake was a midget's got. I can't say that. A small person scores a header in the 6-yard box. Unreal. Mick Coleman, I was not impressed with Ipswich. If they're the second best team, there must be a very poor league. Emma comes in. She said, tomorrow I will tell, but I don't think Beale has the dressing room with him. Biggest question ever is all Speakman and Beale the fall man. That could be true. So on that, before we move on, Beale. Whereas I seem to remember the last live we had when us three were in together anyway, you were defending Beale quite a lot there, Jacob. So has your thoughts and opinions changed? I mean, we all know his subs have a lot to be desired. So where are you at with Beale at the moment?
I'd defend him in terms of him having his hands tied behind his back in terms of what he wants, probably what he wants to add to the squad, because that's completely out of his control. But I do agree with you, particularly on his tactics he showed the other week. I know we've not got the strongest squad on an attacking point of view in terms of experience up there, but to take Bar off for Ashish in terms of the way how Bar had been playing, particularly in the first half, was a very, very strange one. And you would have thought that even after Ashish missed that chance, we needed Rushin on the pitch ASAP, a striker in the box, someone to aim for when we do hit Ipswich on the break. But no, he didn't want to do that. He was happy with the possession style we were playing in the first 45 minutes. I know it worked for 45 minutes. We were 1-0 up at half time, but in terms of the way how McKenna approached it, his tactical point of view, won them the game. They were pushing more bodies up the pitch. They were playing more with a high press, and equally that's what got them the equalising goal. They had more runners in behind, and that they managed to get in the gaps that we weren't filling. And yeah, Beale right now he's got to do something different tomorrow night, whether that's potentially bringing Seal in and moving 09 further up, getting Rushin in and giving potentially Joe Barres. But 9 times out of he's more than likely going to pick the same team again, to be honest. Michael Beale, I've never known an appointment that's had such a downgrade reaction probably since the Phil Parkinson one, and also the Howard Wilkinson appointment as well. Yeah,
well, definitely opinions slightly starting to go for the worst there. Jack, what do you think of Beale at the moment, without swear words if you possibly can, and apart from the fact that he gets players' names wrong in his press conferences?
Yeah, I haven't actually heard that, Mike. So, I mean, I don't think I want to be fair, for Sunderland managers getting his own players' names wrong. It's a bit of a joke in his scenario when he was Newcastle manager. Do you remember that, when he was calling them?
It was only Matty Rigg.
All right. Well, he was calling,
yeah.
he was calling, and he was calling Sheldon Zogby insomnia and all of that, years ago. It's a little bit laughing stock. But I think, to be fair, nobody really wanted him, and nobody really wants him still. Do you know what I mean? And the problem was Mowbray was actually quite popular, and yes, he lost his way towards the end a little bit, but I really felt that the Sunderland fans got to like him and could connect with him. He was a northeast bloke, you know what I mean? He was likeable. His personality was likeable. He said the right things. He had a bit of personality, and obviously we did quite well from under the majority of his reign. He lost his way towards the end a little bit, and I think people were on the fence over whether or not he should go. But the idea of him going was that we would get in a bright, young, fresh coach. You know what I mean? We would roll the dice a little bit, somebody excitable. So I think that the flatline reaction when everybody heard the news that he was announced, and it was like, him, and he just. I want to try and get behind him, and I will. I always try and get behind, Sunderland. I'm not one of these that wants Sunderland to do badly because it'll get rid of the manager, and then that'll work out right in the end, because I don't think there's much logic in that. But I think you have to admit the things that he says and the way that he's coming across. He hasn't really done much to endear himself to our fans, is he? With the results at the minute a little bit iffy, the substitutions, the comments that he's made, and what just going back to Ipswich. I know I've already touched on Ipswich, but what annoyed me was we went 2-1 down in the 75th minute, right? They got that goal. There's 15 minutes to go. We're 2-1 down. We're losing, right? He's got 3 strikers on the bench. He's got Rushin, he's got Semedo, and he's got Burstow. And he waits 10 minutes before he brings one on. Now, this is just me purely speaking as from my personal perspective. I would rather he threw 2-1 straight away and got beat 3-1, right? And had a right good go at them, push them forward, get everybody forward. Ipswich might get one in the 80th minute, 82nd minute, and kill it off 3-1. But at least have 5 or 6, 7, 8 minutes of them where you have a real good go. Bring the strikers on. What have you got to lose? He brought one on, I think, on the 84th or 85th minute, which I can't remember whether it was Burstow or Rushin. Might have been Rushin. And then he brought Burstow on in the 89th minute. And it's just like, well, you're losing. Where's your ambition? You know what I mean? Is it just sort of, well, we'll have a little bit of a go, but I don't want to get. It was like he almost didn't want to get beat too heavily in case he got criticised a little bit more, which a bit of a strange one for me. That.
Yeah, he's definitely got a lack of passion, and for a club that's constantly screaming they've got loads of ambition, he looks like a very unambitious manager. You wanted to be in there, Jacob?
Yeah, I mean, I think we should definitely go away from the term manager. He speaks like a coach. Well, he is a coach, isn't he? A manager, I think, would come across very differently, particularly in press conferences, to what Beale's showing at the minute. Even his post-match interview on Saturday was puzzling. He goes on about digging certain players out for making mistakes, but I think someone with more experience, I think, would have protected their players a little bit more, particularly considering we've got the youngest squad on average in the EFL.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, my opinions have not changed. I think he's tactically in substitutions just inept completely. So in the comments, we've got a few more. We've still got 172 people watching. Thank you all for watching. Make sure you hit like. If you're on mobile, you can just close the chat, hit the like, and reopen it again. That would help the channel. Awesome. Thank you. Kevin Wardle says, the way I see it, we are finished for this season. So obviously the positive approach there from Kevin. Keith Peverley, how much do you think Dodds affects Beale's decisions? Jack?
I'm not sure. I wouldn't have thought a great deal because he wasn't Dodds' man, was he? So I don't think he was somebody that that Dodds brought in. So I'm not sure how much he listened to him, to be fair. I think if he'd been allowed to bring his own people in, then that might be somebody that he sort of trusted a little bit more. But I actually think that was one of the terms of him coming in. I think that's probably why other managerial candidates didn't come in, because the people behind the scenes, KLD and Davison and Speakman, probably said, "Look, these are the model. This is the sort of model that we want you to work under in terms of the structure of the people that you're bringing in." And maybe a couple of people said, "No, I don't want to do that." And Beale was the first one to say, "Yeah, I will do it." And that's maybe why I got it. One thing I did want to say, for a club that's sort of always looking to the future, and we're developing young players, and we're bringing them on, and we're not signing experience. We want to plan for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. The last 2 managerial appointments have been quite short-term appointments. I think Tony Mowbray was a stopgap, really, wasn't he? Because Alex Neil left us in the lurch. And then we have a chance to sort of appoint somebody that might be younger and might be a bit more of a fresh approach in the next few years. And we're appointing Michael Beale. Well, is Michael Beale going to be at Sunderland in a year and a half, 2 years' time to really build these players? No. I mean, there's a lot of Sunderland fans wanting him out now, and he's only been there 6, 7, 8 games. So it's like, I don't see the sort of the correlation between we're building a young development football club and then appointing somebody like Michael Beale, a boring, uninspiring fella that's got no history and no connection to Sunderland, and probably isn't going to be there in the next few years, because they should know from the outside he's not going to be popular. So that was another thing about the appointment.
Yeah. Conrad Tank says Beale needs more time, has a 2-1-2 record in the league, and 4 of these games have been upper half teams. Impossible to be a Sunderland coach. John Sweeney said Beale is probably a good coach on the training ground, but has already shown both here and at Rangers that his tactical knowledge is pants. Mick Coleman said, I wish Beale a happy new year, but I really hope I don't have to wish him a happy Easter. Emma Hansen's come in and said, I think you know my feelings at the moment about him, and I'll admit it if I'm wrong, but one thing we need in the club is stability, not a revolving door. John Nesbitt says he'll have Keno back tonight. Right, so Hull, the upcoming fixture against Hull that we've got a great record against them. We've not lost to them. I know I don't want to be doing curses like Sky Sports. You've put it in my head now, Jack. But we've not lost to them in 10 meetings. I think it was 2014, the last time we lost to them. And obviously, we've already beat them 1-0 this year. So can we do the double over Hull? Jacob?
It's a difficult one, mate. For me, we can talk about the form opponents have been in, but I think form goes completely out the window whenever you play us at this moment in time. Where will give us some confidence for tomorrow night. We have had a fairly decent home record this season, particularly when we've been on the telly. Put it that way, but that record, obviously, you blame me for saying it, could go out the window tomorrow. I'm not confident, mate. To be honest, I think it's really hit an all-time low in terms of how fans have felt about the club in general at this moment in time, the ownership, the management, the recruitment. And I think we just need, result-wise, obviously we do need a win, put it that way, but I think we just need a good reaction type performance from the players to really lift the down moods at this moment in time tomorrow night.
Jack, what's your thoughts on Hull? Do you think we need to make a lot of changes? Do you think?
Yeah, similar. I was just looking at the head-to-head record. You're right. We haven't lost in something like the last 11, but before that, we'd lost 4 in a row. So we go. It seems like we go on streaks against them. We lost 4 in a row. I think when Steve Bruce is their manager, sort of goes quiet spell, and then we haven't lost in the last 11 against them. But I agree. I agree with what Jacob said in terms of a lift, and that's what I was expecting last week. You know, we had everyone was down in the dumps, losing to the Mags, and you know it was the poor performance, and we were all a bit deflated, and we thought Ipswich was going to be the chance to really lift us, and we didn't really get it, did we? I mean, we know we went to goal up, we played okay in spells, but we didn't really get that lift in performance. So hopefully it's tomorrow night. Be interesting to see how we set up at home, because I think Beale's probably better at setting up a team away from home at the minute. You know, keep it tight and a bit of brilliance from someone like a Jack Clark to get a goal and maybe nick a win or nick the result. But at home, our fans are going to be expecting us to attack tomorrow night. You know, they're going to be expecting us to really have a go. So what will his tactic be? I mean, how intense will he be? We haven't scored a goal under him at home, and with 2-3-0 losses against Coventry in the Mags. So, we beat Preston 2-0. Forget about that. But you know, it would be really interesting to see how we, you know, when the pressure's on us to attack and come out at home, what sort of style do we play? So I am interested to see it tomorrow night. I think it'll be a tight, tough game, but I see no reason why we shouldn't be looking to try and win the game.
And what's your changes? What's your team for tomorrow night?
I would probably bring Rushin back in. I would definitely start Rushin. That would be one change I would make. I would maybe be tempted to give Bar another go, because I think he's done well recently. I've been critical of him in the past, but I think he's done well recently. Who knows? Do we bring Seal back in and push Luke O'Neill in the midfield? I can't believe I'm even suggesting it, to be fair. But you know, I think there has to be a little bit something. I think you know, Rushin has to start for me. That's definitely, maybe even give Bellingham a rest. Maybe see if we can bring him off the bench. So there needs to be 2 or 3 changes, definitely, just to mix it up a little bit. We've had a lot of matches recently, and maybe showing signs of legginess in 1 or 2, particularly in Bellingham.
Yeah, we'll get a few comments and then we'll get your team off you, Jacob. Conrad Lee said, quickest change, Mike went from in Beale we trust. Yes, I did tear up my posters last week. Thank you for that. Mickey Stewart asking where Terry is. I think, Conrad said he's got a week off, but, you know, there's a lot of us on this channel in the background working, so we just take turns and whoever's available at the time. But yeah, still very much heavily involved. Mick Coleman, it's only a few weeks since we played Hull. Will Beale have learnt tactics changes needed to win tomorrow? Why do I doubt this? That's interesting. Jim Nesbitt, Hull have a bit more injury crisis at the moment, so they won't be at their strongest. I've heard this as well, that they're really struggling for squad depth, and I also heard rumours they might have 1 or 2 signings in before they even play us, before tomorrow.
Hull did have a game on Tuesday night as well. They had an FA Cup replay on Tuesday night, so that might affect them in terms of we should be fresher and more intense.
Another win for Tony Mowbray.
Yeah. So, Jacob, what's your team for tomorrow night?
You know what I think he's got in terms of what I think he should do? I think Rushin coming in, I think dropping him after I thought he had a fairly decent performance against the Mags, even though he was up against bags of experience that have played Champions League level and high up in terms of playing international level as well. I'd have him in. And for me, Bellingham, it's not that Bellingham's a bad footballer. We've had this debate also about Dan Neil the past 2 seasons as well. It's not that they're doing bad, but they just need a rest, you know, and he could benefit and come back stronger if he's kept out the side for, I don't know, a game or 2. And he's a young lad and he's just completely burnt out at this moment in time. So, yeah, Rushin in for Bellingham, and it will be Neil and Ekwa as the midfield pair, even though we do need more of a holder, and I think that's the only option we can go with in the middle of the park at the minute. But I wouldn't be surprised if he looks to find a way to bring Seal into the starting lineup as well.
Yeah, I looked at that. I thought, wonder if we could set up like we did, I think, against Leeds, where we had the 5 at the back. That would bring Sealt in, free up Hume and Elise, I believe he's not injured. They were worried about an injury on the press conference, but he said when he was in the press conference, if anyone saw it, he said, he's just took a knock and we're going to wait and see. So I don't know if anyone's heard anything about his injury, if he's available. Anyone? No comments there. Yeah, but I agree with you both completely, as in Rusyn should be on there. I think we should, the Preston lineup was good to begin with, but I'd like to see Rusyn up there. I'd like to see Mayenda get some time as well at some point during the game. So I'd like to see him come off the bench because he's shown potential. And we keep saying we want these strikers to come good, but unless we give them game time, how is that ever going to happen, right? Score prediction, Jack?
Yeah, it's a bit of a difficult one. I take no pleasure in saying I got last week right. I did say Ipswich would win 2-1, I think. So I might be magic. I know it might be by some crazy suggestion. I get it right 2 weeks in a row. I can see Sunderland and Hull playing a draw. I really can. I can see this being 1-1 tomorrow night. I hope we win. I hope we go all out and try and win the game because that's what we should always want. I don't think we've got anything to fear with Hull. I think they're a side that are as good as us, but with a home crowd behind us, we should be intense enough to go and try and win the game. But I just think Hull they're a decent side. I think that they could match us. And we haven't had a home draw all season. I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we played a draw at home in the league. I think we've either won or lost at home. So I can see it being 1-1. So I hope I'm wrong. I hope I come back in here and say I was wrong. I wasn't right 2 weeks in a row, but I can see it being a 1-1 draw.
Jacob?
I've got to always back the lads on this channel in terms of prediction. So I'll go with what my heart says, and it'll be a 2-1 win. And I'll go for Clark and Pritchard to get the goals.
Excellent. Right.
I'll say Rusyn to get the goal for me. Then sorry, I forgot to give a score. I think Rusyn will get our goal tomorrow night.
I'm going to go even more optimistic than you, Jacob. I'm going to go 4-0 to Sunderland, which is going to make everyone go, oh, crap, maybe Beale does know what he's doing, and it's going to throw us all into dilemma again. Because we love drama at this club, so that's why I'm going for that one. 4-0 win to Sunderland is my prediction there. In the comments, Keith says he's going to go for 3-0 Sunderland. Conrad Lee said he's going for 1-0 Sunderland. Just trying to scan through. So I can't pick all your comments today, guys. Conrad Tank says 2-0 to Sunderland, his prediction. Mickey Mack is predicting a 3-0 win tomorrow. Mick Coleman, after 40 years not winning the footy pools, I gave predictions, so I will say, he says 0-4. Does that mean we're losing? Because it's a home game, right? So he's gone for the 4-0 loss, I believe.
Unless he's a Hull fan, unless Mick Coleman's a Hull fan, maybe you can confirm he definitely is a Sunderland. Unless he's a Hull fan wanting an away victory, I don't know.
Tony Emerson says 2-0. So, yeah. Stephen Clark says, think Dewey has helped score and assist, yet he's never played. What do we think with that one? And just before, we've got a few more minutes. He's come up in a few of these lives. Where do we think we're at with that one with Dewey?
I wouldn't mind seeing him feature a little bit more, but for some reason, I don't think anybody seems to fancy him, which is strange. Whether it's a fitness issue, whether or not we think that he's not good enough, I don't know, because we haven't seen a lot of him, but I think he's done okay when he's come on. So I wouldn't be against giving him a little bit more time.
Yeah. Same there, Jacob?
Yeah, absolutely agree with Jack there. It's a case of it just feels like he's gone missing at the moment. Look, what's happening with Dewey? I mean, I know we see the odd picture of him on the training ground, but when it comes to a match day, he's just nowhere to be seen. I mean, I don't really know why, to be honest. I think there could be more stuff going on behind the scenes with that one.
Right. With that, I think we're getting up to the time. 163 people watching. We've had loads in watching tonight. Really appreciate all of you. If you don't forget to hit that like button, get us up well past 100. I don't know what likes are at. I can't see it at the moment. So if anyone else knows. But yeah, just hit it anyway, just in case you've not hit it, so that's fine. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. We're weekly content all the time. Jacob, would you like to say your goodbyes?
See you later, everyone. Hope you've had a good week. If you go in tomorrow night, wrap up warm. It's certainly going to be nippy at the Stadium of Light. And as I always say every week, keep faith. We're Sunderland until we die.
And Jack?
Yeah, thanks for everybody for watching. As I always say, it would just be 3 lads tonight talking. Well, 4 when James is there, talking to themselves. So thanks for everybody for tuning in and giving us a show and giving us some comments. I hope I'm wrong tomorrow night. I hope we do win and it's not a draw. And I'll see everybody later, lads and lasses.
And from me, thank you everyone for watching. Again, don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'm sure by next week we'll have a competent host in my place. So don't worry about that, and we'll see you all soon.